Thank you all for hopping in today for our workshop on Mindset over Motivation, a founder's guide to focus. We're excited to have you hop into this workshop. My name's Cameron Law, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm joined by one of our team members, Arlene Miranda, who heads up our operations as well as our marketing efforts. And then you'll hear more from one of our faculty and residents, Dr. Mills, who's leading the workshop today. But if you're not familiar with the Carlson Center, we serve as a regional hub and platform for providing approachable and accessible entrepreneurial education, community, and support to enable startup founders of all backgrounds to explore and launch their businesses. And we're excited to work with entrepreneurs along what we call the entrepreneurial journey. And it's this continuum of support where we're there with you along the way to give you the tools, mindsets, and frameworks you need, as well as that networking community to grow. This afternoon's workshop is a part of our Discover sets of programs, so really building that capacity as entrepreneurs and really building those connections to both the community and the broader ecosystem so you're able to tap into that as you go forward. And so I want to transition over to introduce our workshop lead. So we have Dr. Mills, who is a California licensed psychologist specializing in the treatment of adolescents, adults, and couples. And as a researcher, practicing psychologist and the president of the Sacramento Valley Psychology Association. He's dedicated to providing state-of-the-art mental health care treatment to the greater Sacramento, California area. And we're excited to have him as one of our faculty in residence at the Carlson Center. So he helps advance some of our work on campus and obviously serving entrepreneurs in the community. If you are a student here joining us for the Soul Leadership Initiative, Arlene from our team will be sharing a link where you can sign up and say that you are here attending our workshop. We'll also be posting it again later. But without further ado, I'll be passing it over to Dr. Mills, who will be able to take over the screen, and we'll get started in the workshop. If you have questions as you go, feel free to use the raise hand feature or the chat, and we'll get started. So take it away, Dr. Mills. Thanks for being here.
Cameron, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Hopefully everybody is able to see my screen. Are we all able to see a nice little waterfall there? Wonderful.
You see a waterfall, you got it.
All right, wonderful. Well, I am just going to get this started and we will dive right in. So as Cameron mentioned, I am a psychologist here in Sacramento. I am the past president of the Sacramento Valley Psychological Association. I did a couple of terms. But right now I'm faculty in residence here at the Carlson Center, and I'm very excited to be here today with you to present on the idea of mindset as it relates to motivation. Our title, Mindset over Motivation, the Founder's Guide to Success. You may or may not be aware of the fact that only 1 in 6 Americans ever begins a business of their own. Now, that could be like a lemonade stand, that could be a Fortune 500 company, but only 1 in 6 Americans ever starts their own business. You know what that means, right? That means that if you're here and you're interested in this, that means that you are, by definition, a leader. You are one of the few that are going to make some major change for us in our country, in our world, in our community as we move forward. You're building a new world. Maybe it's a social entrepreneurship venture that you have. Maybe you're trying to create the new and next big widget, but you're paving the way. And as such, you are a leader. Now, this workshop is designed to help teach you how to lead with motivation. Not just lead others, but also to lead yourself, because as a leader, you have to be a follower, and sometimes you have to follow yourself, and a lot of times we get off track. We need leadership right now. We need leadership on a local level, a community level. We need leadership on a global level. And while we've gone through some pretty rough times here as a world over the past few years, I'm very optimistic. I'm exceedingly optimistic, because when I look out here at all of the people who are interested in starting their own ventures, I'm excited. I see a lot of untapped potential as I interact with the Iron Mind Monday group that I interact with on Mondays there at the Carlson Center. When I interact with the young business leaders, I'm excited because there's so much potential, but there's a problem with that, and that is that potential does not create change. Only action creates change. And this workshop is about motivating action to make change. Andy Warhol said that they always say that time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. And so this is about changing things and understanding how things change. So my question to you to get us started is, are you ready to make some change? Yeah? Yeah? Right on. Right on. So help me out here. Take out a piece of paper. If you got a piece of paper, take it out. I want you to bear with me on a little exercise here. I want you to think about your venture, whatever it is. Maybe it's that you're starting a business, or maybe you're trying to envision a business, or maybe you're growing a business. I want you to think about the business that you have or the venture that you have. And I want you to ask yourself the question, what's getting in my way? Specifically, I want you to think, I've got a magic lantern here, genie in a bottle, and you get one wish. If you could make one wish to help you through the next step of your business, whatever that is, the next step, what would that be? And maybe also, how would you know if that was the right thing? Like when you wake up tomorrow, what would you notice that would tell you that that wish had been granted? Now, this can be things like, I don't know, I need to find funding. I'll get a check in the mail from venture capital, or maybe I'll have that SBA loan approved. Just take a moment to ask yourself, what is it that's my next step, and what would I like this genie to solve for me? So you can continue to think about that question as I go into the next slide. I personally find that the three most common places that entrepreneurs get stuck when starting a business is either the question of what needs to be done, and are we really ready to do it? Is it worth the risk? And can I do it? Or is it doable? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the talent? Am I good enough, smart enough? Do people like me enough to be able to get this thing done? If you think about yourself and where you're at with whatever venture it is that you have, ask yourself, what do I need to do? What needs to get done? Maybe I don't know what I need to do next. I mean, gosh, there are so many different things that you can do, right? I mean, you can open up a bank account. You can contact an attorney and incorporate. You can set a meeting with the Carlson Center to get some mentorship. You can set a meeting with a small business development center to get some consulting. Maybe you need to file a patent. Maybe you need to find a co-founder. Maybe you need to create a website. I mean, gosh, there's just so much stuff that goes into starting a venture and making that venture successful. The second place is it really worth the risk? I mean, I'm assuming that most of you know that the majority of small businesses fail, right? I think it's somewhere, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's somewhere around 4 out of 5 small businesses go under within the first 5 years. In fact, I think it's maybe even the first 3 years. So is it really worth the risk? I'm sure many of you are kind of wondering that for yourself. Gosh, this could be, I could be asked to, I don't know, put up some of my own money for this. I'll be not focusing on maybe the other career that I'd considered. Maybe I'll be asking a lot of my partner or spouse, is this really worth it to try to start this thing? And then finally, even if it would be worth it, can I do it? Do I have the talent to do it? Is it doable? Am I smart enough? Each of these questions fits within the context of what we call a mindset. Now, raise your hand if you've ever heard of a mindset. Have you ever heard of that phrase, right? Okay, we hear it a lot, but we generally have a vague idea of what it means, but let's try to define it really quick. So a mindset is a cognitive framework, a structure of beliefs or ideas that guide our attention our information processing, our decision making, the way that we think about the meaning of effort, success, failure, even our own personal qualities. I'm often asked, well, is mindset, is that like a personality trait? And kind of, but no. Yes, but no. So a personality is an enduring pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And yeah, a mindset can be an enduring pattern, but it's also changeable. And the most important thing is that it's situationally based. You have one mindset related to your venture, but you may have an entirely different mindset related to, I don't know, your ability or your interest in parenting, or maybe your musical talent, or what have you. We have all of these different areas of our lives, and you can have different mindsets or different approaches to each of those different things. Most importantly, though, mindsets, they can be changed. If you have a mindset that's getting in your way, well, we can change that. We can work to change that. So once adopted, a mindset functions to guide our thinking. I'm gonna I'm gonna ask you, where do you get stuck? I mentioned those three different kind of areas. Uh, what needs to be done, and am I ready to do it? Is it really worth the risk, or am I smart or talented enough to do it? Where are you stuck in your business? Are you at the point where you do you know exactly what needs to be done? Do you know what your next step is? Do you have a sense of what that is? Also, do you feel like you know if it's worth the risk? I mean, I'm assuming that each of you have some concept of what it is that you want to do, right? And you maybe have a concept of how much it's going to cost, even, or what it's going to cost you in terms of time or effort. And so, are you stuck there trying to figure out, should I really pull the trigger on this thing? Should I really go forward? Or maybe you're stuck with the question of, gosh, do I really have faith in myself? Can I do this? Maybe it's doable, but can I do it? Am I smart enough? Am I talented enough to do this? With each of these mindsets, they can either be deliberative or implemental. That's the what needs to be done, and am I ready to do it? They can be promotional versus preventional. Is it worth the risk? And then it can either be a growth or a fixed mindset. Now, I'm assuming most people have heard of the phrase growth or fixed mindset. It's been pretty popular. We've probably also heard of the idea of an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset. That was big. I think Oprah popularized those concepts back in the 2000s. But let's dive into each of these to see where you're at and what we can do. So let's look at this deliberative versus implemental. This can best be summed up by the quote: "We is not a person, and should is not a plan." We is not a person, and should is not a plan. Have you ever been really hungry? And you're out with a group of friends, and you say something like, "Man, I'm so hungry. Can we please stop at that deli down the street to get a sandwich?" And then your friend's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm so hungry too. Oh, you know what would be great? There's that new pizza joint over on Folsom. Oh yeah, have you heard of the folks over at One Speed? But they opened up that place in Davis. Oh, I've been meaning to go there. What is it called? Maybe it's Sophia's. I don't remember. You know what the best Thai place in? And at this point, you're starting to get angry because you're hungry. In fact, you maybe even be hangry at this point because you want to get some food, but they want to talk about what would be cool. Oh, it would be cool to do this. It'd be cool to do that, but you want some food. Well, what that means is that you're at two different places. You see, your friends in this situation are in what we call the deliberative mindset. This is an open-minded place where we're thinking about possibilities. We're considering desirability and feasibility of a range of possible goals that one might or might not pursue. But we're not doing anything about it. We're just kind of thinking about it. We're brainstorming. We're talking about ideas. And if you're in a implemental or an implementational mindset where you've already made the decision and you just want to act, well, you're going to be kind of frustrated, right? Now, one is not necessarily better than the other. right? Oftentimes we need to take some time to think things over. Just being impulsive and just doing something for the sake of doing it is never a really good idea. I'm sure that each of us have been in a situation where somebody's pushing us to make a decision when we don't have all the facts to base a decision on. This is kind of the classic battle that you see between sales teams and development teams, right? The development team wants to create the world's best widget, right? But the sales team just wants to sell something now. They don't really care whether or not development is done creating the world's most perfect widget. People get stuck either being deliberative, or sometimes they get stuck being implemental. And particularly, we get stuck when anxiety comes up. When we get stressed, when we feel a lot of pressure, each of us tends to have a go-to. I know about myself that I tend to be implemental. Raise your hand if you tend to be the person in the room that's like, let's just do something, right? Yeah, okay. You know yourselves there. Okay. Raise your hand if you tend to be like, well, I don't know. Let's think this through first. Okay, right on. And and so we need each of those parts of us. We need each of those halves. We need that balance, right? We need action. If we just had a team that was full of people who liked to, I don't know, contemplate their navel and think about what could be or what might be, well, nothing ever gets done. But then if we just have a team of people who just want to implement the just do it crowd, well, stuff gets done, but it may not be the best decisions, and then we wind up painting ourselves into a corner, right? I think we've all been there at some point, getting painted into a corner. So we need both of these. But what I'll ask you to do today is consider for yourself, which of these am I? Am I the implemental, or am I the deliberative? And do I get stuck there? How do I get stuck there? And what might I do to possibly change, to possibly think of things in a little different fashion, to maybe balance myself out a little bit? Okay, so this is the first dimension, deliberative versus implemental. The second dimension or mindset group that we're going to look at is, well, this is promotional or preventional. This kind of overlaps a lot with that old abundance versus scarcity mindset. This is that question of, is it worth the risk to do this thing? These are orientations that people adopt during the goal striving stage to distinguish a eager improvement-based regulatory style from the more vigilant security-based regulatory style. What I mean by that is that the promotional mindset is a focus on advancing the self towards ideas by adopting an eager locomotion behavior strategy. Oh, wow, that sounds very psychological. Let's just make it very simple and just say that success is defined by gaining or attaining. Whereas with this preventional, success is defined by not losing. Who here enjoys playing the slots in Vegas? Maybe. Okay, it can be fun, right? It can be fun. But you know, in the long run, you're going to lose money, right? I mean, that's just statistically the way it works. I mean, because that's how casinos work, is that they know what the odds are, and we can make it work. Now, I see a couple of folks who have raised hands, and I'm wondering if those hands are raised because they were relating to something earlier, or if they are questions. Oh, looks like they just disappeared. Okay, right on. If you do have questions, by the way, and they're burning, you can always raise your hand, and hopefully I'll see it and I'll get to you. But there'll be some time at the end for some questions. Okay, who here would never touch a slot machine or do anything risky like? Okay, all right. Mathematically, you're probably the smarter of us, right? But hey, there can be some fun in playing the games, right? I mean, that's what they're called, games, right? And we like to play games, right? Now, that's not an excellent investment strategy, but it can be fun sometimes, right? Right? Okay. In terms of your business or your venture, which are you? Are you more oriented towards gaining, or are you more afraid of losing? Who here is willing to take a big risk with their business to potentially make a big return? Oh, Oh, okay. So I'm seeing some cautious folks here. All right. All right. Who here would much prefer guaranteed slow and moderate success? Okay. I see some thumbs up. All right. You know, both of these strategies are important and both of them are necessary in business, right? I've heard that business really is just the process of calculated risk evaluation, right? I mean, that's what we're doing is we're trying to figure out is it really worth it to make this this bet? And every time you start a business, you're making a bet. Now, hopefully, you've evaluated what are the possible pitfalls, what are the possible gains. Maybe you've done some market research and you know, this thing's likely to take off, or this is going to be a hard sell. But ultimately, everything really is, in fact, a gamble to some extent. In your life, do you tend to not gamble enough, or do you tend to gamble too much? We'll come back to that here in a little bit. And then finally, think the main focus of today is going to be on this growth versus a fixed mindset. Now, raise your hand if you've ever heard of this before. A growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Okay. Some of us have heard of it. Some of us are saying no, but I'm fairly certain they've heard of it. So let's talk about this. So this is a way of thinking about the nature of one's own personal qualities. In other words, a growth mindset is the belief that one's personal qualities are malleable or changeable and can be developed through effort. The harder you try, the better you get. This leads to what we call mastery goals, and we'll double back on that in a second. But the next is a fixed mindset, and that's the belief that one's personal qualities are in fact fixed or set, and they're not open to change. This is the you either have it or you don't. And this leads to the establishment of performance goals. So let me ask you this. Is musical talent something that you are born with? Who believes that talent, musical talent or artistic talent, is something that you're born with? Okay. Well, who thinks that it's something that you acquire? Okay. More folks that think that it's something that you acquire. Okay. So it turns out that if we look at the research, it's a little bit of both. So there is some genetic predisposition where a person might be more easily capable of mastering something. But if they don't put in the hard work to get there, they're probably not going to get there just on talent alone. I grew up in Nashville. I was a musician well before I was a psychologist, and I toured around and I met all kinds of fantastically talented people because, you know, Nashville's kind of like to music what LA is to acting and whatnot. And I can tell you that I've met some people who just were fantastically talented just right from the start. I remember a friend of mine, I remember teaching him when I was in high school, teaching him how to play music. I'd been studying this instrument for like 15 years. And in the span of 2 weeks, this kid's got it better than I do. And poof, he takes off and, you know, now he's touring the world as a big shot musician. So I guess there is, in fact, some genetic predisposition. But I will say this, in those 2 weeks, he practiced nonstop. He practiced every day for about 8 hours, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He didn't give it up. And he still to this day practices about 6 hours every single day, constantly practicing. Now, I want to ask you in your life, as you look at your business venture, is success in business something that you're born with or something that you acquire? Are some people more, I don't know, genetically inclined to be successful in business? I don't mean, well, they were born into money, but I mean, you know, is that something you're either talented at or not? Well, what it turns out is that like with most things, it may come slightly easier to some or more difficult to others, but if you put in the effort, if you really work hard, you can achieve some pretty extraordinary things. Raise your hand if you think that hard work and effort can get you to where you need to be with your business. Right on. I'm glad to hear that because that is, in fact, the only way that you're going to be successful. If you do not put in a lot of hard work, it was a friend of mine, Panda Morgan. Some of you may know Panda, and Panda likes to joke with her classes and say that, with this business that I built, I only had to work 12 hours just to make it successful. But the punchline is that that was 12 hours every day from the moment that she started her business until the moment that she sold her business. She worked constantly. Hard work and effort gets you there, right? Okay. So, my question to you is, one, what do you need to do? What needs to be done for you to be able to be successful in your business? What is the very next step? What's the next actionable step that you need to take to get something done? And the punchline of this is you need to make a decision. If you do not already know, if you are in the deliberative state and you're just, oh, well, gosh, I could do this or I could do that or I don't know, I'd suggest that you probably just need to make a decision about it and move forward. Because what I know about this group is that most of you tend to be more deliberative. You tend to hold back rather than take action. The next question, right along with that, is are you ready to do it? And realistically, the answer should be yes. I think you are ready to take the next step. Now, the next step might be gathering more information, but whatever that next step is, it's time to do that. We need to move forward and make it happen. There was a friend of mine, another psychologist, Daniel Rockers, who says that action leads to insight more often than insight leads to action. Action leads to insight more often than insight leads to action. So, since we're all a group that maybe holds back on doing something, maybe we just need to make something happen here. The next is it worth it? Is that risk worth it? I'm assuming that you know what the risk is, right? Or I'm assuming that you know how to figure out what the risk is. You can run some basic numbers and figure out what it is that you want to do and how much it would cost and what the potential success would be. And if it was successful, how much money you might make. You could do cash flow analysis. If you can't do that, I have wonderful news for you. The Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship offers all kinds of workshops to help you figure out whether it's worth it or not to move forward. Also, the Small Business Development Center here in Sacramento offers a number of different resources to help you walk through that process. And then finally, my question to you is, are you smart enough? Are you talented enough? Are you good enough at business to make this happen? Or should you just hang it up now because, you don't have that innate talent? I mean, you hear these stories about people like Steve Jobs and Wozniak and Jeff Bezos and all these stories about people who just were extraordinary at business or whatnot. But they worked really, really, really hard. And they continued to work hard as long as they were in business. It is hard work, but it can definitely pay off. So my answer to that question is, it doesn't matter if you're smart enough. It doesn't matter if you're talented enough. What matters is that you put in the effort for it. Okay, so now that we've defined what our challenges are trying to figure out what it is that we need to do, trying to remind ourselves that we can do it. It is doable. It's doable by us. We can make that happen. And it probably is worth the risk. Now I want to talk about how to stay on track. How does one stay motivated? Well, I could talk to you about all kinds of things, like, for instance, goal setting. If we have a little time at the end, we might touch on goal setting. We might touch on leveraging of a support system. That's a big thing that I think about, because realistically, our lives are supported by multiple systems, just the same way that a table is supported by multiple legs. You have your family, you have your friends, you have your personal finances, occupational well-being. You also have your health, um, and you even have your relationships and romantic life. And if one of those legs of the table is not really there, well, the table's still fairly sturdy, right? Let's just say that, I don't know, you're happily married, and you've saved up some money, and you've got a lot of friends to support you, but your health is a little challenged. I don't know, maybe you got a chronic condition. You can still be successful. But once more than one of those legs of the table start to get wobbly, well, the table starts to get wobbly. We could go and talk about that all day. But realistically, what I want to talk about right now is prioritization, how to figure out what is the next step. This is what I call the IUAP method. I stands for importance, U for urgency, A for anxiety, and then P for priority. This is how I go about figuring out what it is that I do every day. At the beginning of the day, I'll make a list. So let's just take some very simple things. These aren't necessarily directly related to your business, but we'll get into some business related ones here in a moment. Any task that you might have can be said to be either very important or not important at all. It can be said to be urgent or not urgent. And it can be said that it causes you anxiety or that it doesn't. Washing your car, for instance, is that a highly important thing? Well, I don't know. If you don't wash your car, maybe the paint doesn't stay shiny for a long time. But ultimately, is that going to be the thing that makes or breaks your business? How frequently you wax your car? Probably not. Most of the highly successful people that I know in the world really do not obsess about their car. In fact, the most successful people I know tend to drive old Priuses that are, like, I don't know, 12 years old and high mileage, but it gets them there, right? Because they've got much more important things to think about. So washing your car, while important, it's not that important, at least not to your business. Is it urgent? Well, importance and urgency, those are two entirely separate things. Some things can be very, very important, such as, for instance, filing your taxes. That's very important, but it's not that urgent. I mean, what we've got a little while before it's tax time, right? Other things can be highly urgent, but not very important. Like, for instance, I don't know, feeding your parking meter. Let's just say that you've parked downtown and your parking meter's running and it's about to run out. Well, you have 30 seconds to feed it before you're expired. But how important is that? Well, I mean, you know what? You get a $40 ticket. It's not going to be the end of the world. If you're in an important business meeting, you may decide that it's better for me to stay in this business meeting rather than interrupt it and run out and pay my parking meter. I'll take the $40 hit. So things can be important and urgent. They can be not important and not urgent. They can be important but not urgent, and they can be unimportant but urgent. It's a mouthful. And they can cause us anxiety or not. So every task that I have, that I think about, every morning I'll just sit and I'll jot down everything that's on my mind, everything that I might need to do. I'm sure most of us use to-do lists, right? But I add in these features. I'll rate between 1 and 5 on importance. Car wash, I'll give it a 2. Urgency, I'll give it a 2 out of 5. 5 is very, very urgent or very, very important or very, very anxiety inducing. I'll give it a 1 out of anxiety because it's not really causing me that much anxiety. And then I'm going to add each of these 3 up, and I'm going to get a number between between 3 and 15. Here, car wash, it's a 5. Usually for me, anything under a 10 never gets done anyway, so I don't even worry about it. But I add it up. Okay. Calling your grandma. If your grandma's still with us, hopefully your grandma's still with us. If she's still with us, it's pretty important to give her a call. Also, depending upon how old she is, it may be fairly urgent too. Hopefully your grandma doesn't call you a lot of anxiety, but maybe thinking about calling does. Okay, and so I get a 5 and a 4 and a 3, and that's a 12. Then I have a tax filing. Well, that's a 5 importance, but only a 3 in terms of urgency, and then a 3 of anxiety, so that's an 11. So that's still kind of up there, right? Then I have write my memoir. It's not that important, and it's not that urgent, and it doesn't cause me a lot of anxiety, so it's very low. Okay, you can figure out how to do this, right? Many of you probably already do something along these lines. You can give things ratings for importance, you can give things ratings for urgency, and then you can give things ratings for anxiety. And then ultimately, you'll come up with some combination of each of these to determine what it is that you need to do on a daily basis. So let me ask you, do you struggle with figuring out what to do on a daily basis? Yeah, some of you? Raise your hand if you ever struggle with figuring out what to do on a daily basis. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, can you share with me why? What is the challenge that you have trying to figure out what is it that I need to do? Is it a fun?
I'm struggling with studying.
Studying?
Yes, I'm currently doing my training, and I have a lot of studying that I have to do. And I'm struggling to find my motivation to do everything that I have to do.
Okay. Is that because you don't know what to do? Is it because you're afraid that if you try, you'll fail? Um, or is it that you're just not sure that it's worth the effort? It's worth the reward for the risk?
I think there are so many things which overwhelms me, and I don't break them down
Okay.
to start from something. And it seems so many things, so big and like difficult to accomplish it in a day.
Got it. Got it. Well, that leads me so beautifully into the next part of my presentation, and that is the part on setting of goals. Because if you know what your goal is, usually you can very easily figure out what it is that you need to do. And now, when I say goal, I don't just mean a theoretical end state of what we might accomplish. I'm talking about what we call a SMART goal. Raise your hand if you've ever used a SMART goal. Couple of you. Okay. This is a very useful tool for you. A SMART goal, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time limited. Now, the function of a goal, we only set goals to help us achieve some desired end state. If we didn't have the benefit of the accountability that goals bring about for us, then we wouldn't bother setting them. But goals can't be accountable if they're not specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic. When I say specific, let's just say that you have a personal goal. You want to get healthy. Is that specific? No, because that can mean so many different things. If you set a goal and you say, I want to be successful in my business, great. How do you know if you've achieved that? That's not very specific. If I set a personal goal, I might say, I'd like to quit smoking. That's pretty specific, right? Or I'd like to lose 10 pounds. That's specific. Getting healthy, that's not so specific. Next, your goal needs to be measurable. In other words, what is the phrase? What's measured is managed, right? It needs to be quantifiable. I need to be able to represent the outcome in a number. If I say, I'll get fit, I want to get fit, is that measurable? No, not really. I mean, oh, I achieved 3 fitnesses today. That doesn't make any sense, right? But if I say I'd like to lose 10 pounds, well, that's very measurable. I can measure pounds. Or I can measure the number of cigarettes that I've smoked in a given day, right? Or I can measure, for instance, how how many months of cash flow analysis I've done for my business, or how many people I've gotten to complete my questionnaire doing market research. All of that, that's measurable. Next is achievability. If I say I'd like to lose 300 pounds, well, that's not achievable because I don't even weigh 300 pounds. I mean, I don't know, maybe if I like inhale a bunch of helium somehow, I'll float away. But realistically, I can't lose 300 pounds. If I said I'd like to lose 10 pounds, well, that's achievable, depending upon what the time frame is, right? So our goal needs to be achievable. Next, it needs to be realistic. If I say I'm going to lose 100 pounds in the next 2 weeks, is that achievable? Yes, actually, it is achievable. I could cut off my leg. I'm probably not going to happen, right? That's not a very realistic goal, but I mean, it is possible, but it's not realistic. If I say I'm going to lose 10 pounds in the next couple of weeks, well, maybe that's realistic. If I say 10 pounds in the next 2 months, that's realistic. And then finally, time limited. If you don't have a time limit on your goal, you have no way of knowing when the goal is over, whether or not you've achieved it or not. If you say that I'm going to lose 10 pounds and I see you 3 years from now and I say, hey, how did that goal thing work out for you? And you say, oh, it's going great. I'm down 2.5 pounds. 3 years later, well, that doesn't have any use for you, right? So we need something that is, in fact, time limited. We need to set, in fact, short-term goals so that we can follow these goals so they can tell us whether or not we are going in the right direction to achieve the things that we want. And then finally, the other thing that we really need is that we need challenging goals. We need challenging SMART goals. So does just working 3 hours per week towards your business, does that feel like it's challenging to you? Is that enough time for you? Maybe it is. Maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you're at a deliberative place. You need to try to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life and with your business. And so spending an hour 3 times a week just sitting down and journaling about what I would like to accomplish with my business, maybe that makes sense. Then again, if you're more towards the launch stage of a business and the whole discover to launch process, well, then 3 hours probably is not going to cut it. Also, you want to tackle goals that cause a good amount of anxiety. Not so much that it debilitates you, but enough to where you're motivated to get it done. Because ultimately, anxiety is the one singular emotion that is always tied to action. You don't feel anxiety when you think about things in the past. You feel anxiety when you think about things in the future, things that you need to do. You may think of something in the past and then you notice yourself feeling anxious, and it's because you've realized somewhere deep down that you still have something that you need to do related to that thing. But anxiety, by definition, evolved to help us act. It gives us this glucocorticoid adrenaline drive to go and act. It helps us to act. So, apropos to this, I want to pause here in our PowerPoint because I really try to avoid death by PowerPoint. And I want to ask each of you, where is it that you're at in terms of establishing goals for your business? Where do you need to be? And what kind of mindsets are you struggling with right now? I'll invite anyone who feels comfortable to share, but I'm hoping that maybe somebody would be willing to go a little bit more in depth and allowing me to ask some of these questions to hopefully illustrate some points and maybe help guide you towards where you want to be. Hi,
Hello.
Emily.
Hi.
Very nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too. I'm so glad this workshop couldn't be any more perfect timing for myself. So I just created a strategic plan for the year so that I can have a time frame of when I am planning to do things, which has been very useful. And I'm in the idea, but I'm kind of moving forward stage. So like I have a website, I have my connections. I'm currently in SEA, the Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy, to further ground my plan going forward and also connect to others. One thing is I didn't go to college and get my MBA. So I am doing a lot of learning, and that is one of my talents. So that is, I'm amplifying and using that as to my what I'm doing. This week, I kind of went into a different schedule of mine because in order for me to actually start building, I do need to learn certain aspects in different various areas that are all going to kind of come together, all pieces of the puzzle. So I currently have taken on some other courses, accounting, global financial markets, yield curve dynamics, because that's all I need, that information to help me move forward. But then in the meantime, I also have, obviously my class with SCA. I am meeting with various people, community partners, gaining information about the nonprofits as they are today and how they operate. And in doing so, I realized that I'm going to be taking on two problems, not just that of helping women who are in crisis as I once was, but that also with the operation of nonprofits as they are today and creating an innovative way that is going to produce income, someone in the way of maybe like a St. John's Weave where they have the profit aspect, but I need to have something a little different. So I'm also, one of the things I'm also learning about is the NFT market and how that operates. So it's a lot all at once. I hope to have, I'm also working on a book because everything's about timing, right? So everything has to be timed perfectly. And I want to have an event in the third quarter, which is also when I would like to be fully formed, but I need everything to kind of trickle out at the same time. The book, the collections of NFTs, my marketing on social medias, I'm doing that as well, learning how to edit videos. That takes up some time. So I'm trying to get a system with moving with that faster. But I need that all in place. And then hopefully come July, I will be in contact with maybe some local media here to kind of promote, connect to change the business, be fully formed by then, have an event to do so, have my book out to bring that awareness, to bring the value to me so that I can also have the worth with doing that, and then be able to move forward with real estate options and getting homes.
I'm sorry. Can we pause? Can we pause for a second?
Do you
I'm
see
sorry.
why this is so important?
Whew!
Whoa, yes, that's exactly.
Wow. Okay. Deep breath.
Yes. So
Can I
how
ask
can you
Emily,
help
what are
me?
you not doing?
What am I not doing? Well, that's funny. I'm not smoking anymore. That was taking up too much time.
Okay.
We had to clear some things off my plate. I have a schedule now where I wake up at 5, I meditate, and then my day starts and it goes until 11.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a 2-year-old. So, but luckily I have family here that has been really helpful with him. But I kind of sit in this room and I every 2 hours I have a blocked portion of time that I'm doing something to slowly move, compartmentalizing my time so that I can focus on one task and move forward.
So my question to you is: are you one of these types that is often found saying the phrase, "You know what would be cool"? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you are suffering from what we call everything is cool. Everything is cool. Everything sounds exciting, right? And I envy that because there's so much awesome, wonderful energy that comes from that, right? The challenge with that, not problem. I'm not using the word problem. I'm using the word challenge. The challenge with that is harnessing that and focusing it towards a specific thing that you're going to get done, right? Is that what you often find?
It is, but it's hard because the specific goal, in order to obtain that or achieve that, I have to get all these other underlining things completed and understood and in line with that so that I can.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
It's like everything's like do, but then all will come together. I can see it coming like this, but it's organizing all of this so that it can all be done.
Right. You sound like a person who has a very healthy growth mindset, who recognizes that if I work hard enough, that I can achieve most anything. There's a challenge with that, and that is that if you work hard enough, you will in fact die, right? And so we we have to find that healthy boundary there for you between what is going to bring you joy and happiness and success in your life, right? And then what do you have to give up, right? I mean, there is a mourning process that occurs here. When what do they say? Fear of missing out, right? You know, there's a mourning process that occurs for us when we have to recognize that, you know what, my chances, Dr. Mills's chances of becoming a world-renowned ballerina are sadly decreasing by the day because I've never done ballet. And while I do, in fact, believe that if I put my efforts towards it, I could probably achieve it, there's so many other things that I want to achieve, right? Do you feel like you have mourned the loss of the many things that you could do, but you won't do?
Not so much. I come from a place where I had lost and had lost so much. And so I really, everything's a gain for me. And even though it's all like, there's a lot on my plate, I'm loving every single minute of it.
Yeah.
I am so grateful to even be on this journey.
Isn't that so beautiful to connect to that gratitude?
Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
It's just, and when you said something earlier, and the other lady who spoke up, and you said, "Is this because you are in fear?" And I thought about it, and I go, "Aha! I see why sometimes I will go, oh, where do I start next, or what do I do next?" Because I'm in fear of failure. Because
Oh, wow.
you know, if you don't start, then you can never fail.
That's true. That's true.
So, but I know that I don't have that option. I just don't have that option, not for myself. I have to see this forward, and I know that it sounds like a lot of stuff, but if it is scheduled properly, and as one mentor told me, if you use your time prudently, then this is achievable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you know, often in that process of mourning the loss of the many things that we might do, often we come to find that the thing that we are destined to do is in fact right in front of us. It's not a million miles away. A PhD, an MBA, an MD, and 13 other degrees away. Maybe it's in fact just right in front of us. Maybe we don't necessarily have to create the next Facebook to be a success. Maybe we can start with a small single product company and do that product really, really well. And then slowly add another product. And eventually maybe we change lines of business down the road. But if you knew that you were going to be successful at a smaller venture, and that venture was going to be successful enough to sustain you and the people that you love, do you feel like that would be enough?
No,
Okay.
it wouldn't, because I don't know how to explain it, but I have a feeling. It's just a gut sense of where this is going to be and where this is going to go. Yes. And I just know that I have the ability to reach out to so many, and just to sustain just myself and my family. I know I would become very complacent and bored with that type of a future. And I can just feel it, and I can see it, that there's more, but there's just a lot of learning along the way. And I'm not the person who's like, okay, all right, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to jump in and form and go forward without having a clear, structured plan, and one that is going to work to push this forward and make it sustainable, but also scalable.
So it sounds like really the scalability thing is the crux for you. You strike me as somebody who's so talented, it's so smart that you get bored pretty easily.
Yes.
Yeah, right on. And that's a challenge. Emily, can I just say thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably and openly here today. It sounds like you have
You.
just you have amazing head on your shoulders, and you have such exciting hopes and aspirations, and I do hope that I will see all of those come to fruition. And I also want to extend that if I can in any way help contribute to any of that, I really want to do that. So I want to make
Thank
myself
you so
available.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the Carlson Center in its totality is there as a support for you. I know that I have been mentored and supported by so many agencies and people, some of which are even in this room, but you know who I'm. I see that smile. Yeah, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much your mentorship has meant to me. Uh, but I'm wondering if, mindful that we have 3 minutes, I'm wondering if there are any questions that we can cover in that 3 minutes before we wrap up. Cameron, do we have the full three?
Yeah, you have the full 3 minutes. So
Right on. Anything that's popping up as a burning question for anyone? I will share that at the end of this, I'll be uh, sending my slides over, and hopefully can make those available for anyone who wants access to them. It looks like here in the chat, if I am seeing this correctly, it looks like we have a number of links to some awesome resources that the Carlson Center has in upcoming events. Please do make sure to make use of those because I think that as I started out this presentation with, I think that there's just so much amazing talent and potentiality here in this room. People who can do it and who I'm certain will do it. Uh, and don't forget to reach out and ask for help. I wouldn't be where I am had it not been for so many people investing in me. And yeah, I want you to know that those resources are there for you. Cameron, any closing words then?
awesome. Well, I want to say thank you, Dr. Mills, for coming in and leading the workshop here. I know it was an impactful one. So as Dr. Mills shared, we will be sharing the recording as well as the slides that he will be sending my way. So you'll have those to follow up. And then I did share some links in the chat. So if you're a student here for the Leadership Initiative, that's what that first link is. It's a sign up that you were here. And then the next are some resources to tap into, which are Startup Happy Hour and a couple other workshops that we're leading at the Carlson Center. So feel free to plug in, and thank you all for being here. And we certainly are here as a resource. So feel free to reach out to us at the Carlson Center. And thank you again, Dr. Mills, and all of you entrepreneurs taking the risk to bring your idea and business to life. So without further ado, we'll call it to a close. And thank you again. And we look forward to seeing you around the ecosystem.
Namaste.
All right.